What will happen now if Robert Kennedy does not show for this debate? He's been given till 3:30 to make up his mind.
Well, I have purchased now a half hour, and I will be there and will debate with myself, I guess.
An empty chair?
I suppose so.
Have you ever debated with yourself before?
Oh, yes, you debate with yourself a lot in reaching your final conclusions, but I shall point out some of the distortions and the misrepresentations that have been made about my record, and I want him, of course, to make them in my presence.
The Fair Campaign Practices Committee has indicated that you have been abused in this campaign.
Well, I think I have too.
Where was the greatest abuse?
Well, I don't know where you'd start in to say, call the greatest misrepresentation that's been made of my record. I've been pointed out as being opposed to everything the people want, opposed to education and housing and minimum wage, and I'm for air pollution and water pollution and all these things, all of which I've fought, and I've been for all of these things. My record down through the years is for all of them. They pick out some nitpicking little amendment years back somewhere and say, I've just explained about one in here on federal aid to education, what a ridiculous thing it was, and I voted for the Javits-Cooper federal aid to education amendment that would have given $20 apiece to every child, including New York children. I voted against a bill which would have given $10 to New York children and $20 to Texas children.
Senator King, how do you personally feel when you hear these kind of charges? What does it do to you, sir?
Well, I am considerably annoyed, and I consider it beneath the dignity and unbefitting for a candidate for the United States Senate to make that kind of baseless charges. I think that a United States Senator, both on the floor and in his campaign, should be at all times truthful and factual.
And you're saying Mr. Kennedy has not been truthful and factual?
There are many instances where his statements have been false. For instance, Sunday, one on the television program which we had, in which he said that I voted against an area redevelopment bill, and my colleague Senator Javits voted for it. Senator Javits in 2 hours put out a release saying it was untrue, it was false. He voted exactly the same way I did. We both voted against that bill because it did not contain a provision that would prevent jobs from being taken out of the state of New York to other states. We voted for a bill which had in it a provision that would prevent that, and we then voted both the same way on that. That's a good illustration.
Well, how
I'm
would
sorry,
you
Joe.
characterize this campaign very briefly, so as it is right now?
Well, it's deteriorating into a campaign of distortion and misrepresentation, and I intend to bring out these facts as I'm now doing all over this state.
You appear to have your back.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Jim O'Donnell.
Jim O'Donnell. He said it was quite
Ed
important to get
Dudley.
up before the meeting.
Call John Nolan right away. Mr. Ruggiero.
If you don't
call
know about
Helen
it,
right away.
Mr. Mayor does.
Well, could you tell Mr. Gutzman and he can call then?
What is it?
Jim O'Donnell call?
No, this is from Jim O'Donnell.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Oh, fine.
And I think, I gave him that. I think we ought to get
Okay,
right
fine.
upstairs. I'm trying to hold this order.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry.
How's it going?
Yeah, sure. How are you? Nice to see you.
We'll go right after you.
Yeah.
Hi, John. How are you? a few moments, but I think that's some of the major problems.
Just tell him. And if it isn't,
We
then we'll
had
answer
Keating
that.
here before,
No, that's right.
and Keating again came out and said that he's been telling out lies, distorting their campaign practice. Kennedy, can we get we spoke with Senator Keating here just about a half an hour ago. He repeated these charges. You've been telling outright lies about him and accused you of gross misrepresentation and distortion. Will you give us your personal reaction to that?
Everything I've said is in accordance with the facts, and as I've discussed his record, it's been documented by the congressional record. So he wanted to discuss his record, now I'm discussing it, and apparently he doesn't like that.
He said that you have been nitpicking on issues and picayune subject matter that has nothing to do with what's at stake in the campaign.
Well, let me say this. He voted against federal aid to education. I don't think that's nitpicking. He voted against it in 1961, he voted against it in 60, and he voted against it in 1957. The three major bills on federal aid to education. Voted against housing on 23 different occasions. He voted on the three major pieces of legislation that dealt with the unemployed here in the state of New York and around the country. He voted either against them or for crippling amendments. Now, I can give you the date and I can give you the time. And that's what the record shows. And he voted against the Youth Conservation Corps. He voted against major parts of the poverty bill. I think the record speaks for itself. The record is there. He voted differently than his colleague, Senator Javits, and he voted differently than Senator Humphrey, and he voted differently than many of the liberal Republicans. And I don't think that's the kind of leadership the state of New York needs or wants.
Well, Mr. Kennedy, how do you feel when you're accused of telling outright lies in a campaign such as this?
Well, I don't think it's well, I don't like that, but I don't like a lot of other things that have been said over the period of the last 2 weeks, and I've begun to expect it from Senator Keating and from his associates.
Have you made up your mind about appearing on this debate with him tonight?
I'd be glad to appear on the debate.
You will be there?
I'll be glad to appear if they work out in their meeting this afternoon, working out a format. If the format, he accepted the format that I suggested, which was the Kennedy-Nixon debates. And if we work that out, I'm going to appear.
How about this fair campaign practices charge that he's lodged against you and the letter that you apparently received? Would you comment on that, sir?
Well, I've said that he ridiculed the idea of having a test ban treaty in the 1950s when it was suggested by Adlai Stevenson and Senator Humphrey, and that he gave no leadership on the floor of the United States Senate when the test ban treaty was up in 1963. Both of those charges are correct, and both of them are verified and sustained by the record. And I stand by them and I make them again. They're absolutely accurate.
Do you think all these charges are going to hurt you, or do you just kind of...
Well, I don't know what I can do, and I think that it's a test for politics. I think in government, I think if you can go through all of these kind of charges that he's made against me, that I'm crooked, that I'm pro-Nazi after my brother and brother-in-law were killed, and the other statements that he's made, that I'm a liar, I stand on my record. I'm not going to get down in the gutter on this matter, and I think that this an election for the United States Senator, I think, is a high office, and I think that it should be conducted on a high plane. And I think we should be discussing education, housing, medical assistance for our elderly, immigration, what we would do, what a United States Senator should do from the state of New York.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're right, Ed.
You're right.
Very bad.
Yeah, get it out of the way.
I want to ask you how Mr. Kennedy, how is your brother?
All the way.
Good, Jim.